So this is our third and final series from my final third part from our Thornbury series of videos. Today I thought we'd just go for a walk just along the high street. There is one thing I wanted to say, is you can see that I do wear shorts and stuff now, yeah? This was quite a big thing for me, especially post-stroke, you know, wearing shorts and everything. Obviously, I always used to get quite weird about the AFO, but then lately I've just learned that these are like war wounds, really. You should really accept these sort of things. Whether you have a scar on your head or anything, or whether you wear an AFO splint on your hand or your arm or anything, treat these as your war wounds, and wear them with pride, really. That's one thing I will say. So this is where we start our walk now today. Yeah, it does look like we're heading into the jungle or the forest, but I trust you there is a path down here to follow, because this is the main path. This is the main entrance and exit points, really, to enter the castle and exit the castle as well. As we arrive now, this is at the main gatehouse entrance part, really, and this is a gatehouse, they say, that was never actually completed, really, I'm afraid, but it still looks pretty nice though to me, even though it is unfinished. And then here's the entrance. I mean, yeah, just an entrance like that just looks absolutely beautiful, doesn't it, really? There's definitely that wow factor as you walk in, really. The path to the side of the church now that we'll take, leading on, that heads towards St Mary's Church, so we'll just head down that way. I'll be honest with you though, this path may not be the best for wheelchairs. I reckon I obviously stick to the main road on the side there. There's probably wider curbs and everything to get for easy access. Now, loads of people come round every year to visit the castle, you know, and this is St Mary's Church is one of those places where they always visit, you know. I mean, just look at it, it's just truly breathtaking. They always visit here and just stop for photographs, but no one ever really ventures inside, so that's why I thought I'd take you around inside and have a look, because everything out like this has got to have a story at the end of the day. I don't know much of the story. So yeah, we've just come out of the castle here, the entrance is just there. Yeah, so then the first thing we saw as we were coming up into this, towards the high street, was this St Mary's Church just here, just right next door to the castle. So let's head inside. We've got permission to film inside, so let's show you around. Let's have a look. It's a 500-year-old church that was apparently once used by Henry VIII. Nice Tudor features on the building. Lovely stained glass, as you would find expect in a church. Automatic doors, pointy tops, which is very Tudor in its design. Nice welcoming big wooden doorway here. And the church itself. It's crazy to think that this church was once used by Henry VIII himself. There's actually a door entrance from the castle itself. They used to come out, they said, just behind the organ, just over there in the corner. So then he could arrive without anyone, without any notice or anything. He could just pop into church, you know. A few things that I did mention to us, that this wooden paneling is obviously not of the time, but this is more Victorian in its design, apparently. I couldn't tell you more than that, I'm afraid. You've got the pointy roofs and so yeah, as you can see, the one thing that you might notice is that how the width of the doorways there is actually quite wide. And then coming in as well, this is a lot wide as well, so you can get wheelchairs in here quite easily. The only thing I think they might struggle with is actually getting into the pews themselves. So if we was to come here, and if you was to go inside with your wheelchair, I think that's going to be a complete no-no, to be honest, I reckon, because that's going to be pretty tight to get in there. But yeah, apart from that, so if we head out this door on the side, on the front here, and I'll show you something quite special here. I did just notice as we sort of walked here that apart from these pews, there is a lot of additional chairs here as well. You got the more cushioned, comfy chairs as well as all the additional chairs at the back here. So probably these chairs are used for disabled chairs. You know, if you want to sit here as well, want to sit out your wheelchair. But let me show you this outside here. But I think this is a bit special. So follow me. So as we come out here. We were sat in the Tudor walled garden in the castle yesterday, and over there is probably Henry VIII's secret door passageway that would lead straight into the church here. Just a bit of a historical fact for you there. Obviously, it's all been closed off now and covered in vegetation and stuff, but that's how it was back then. And here we are outside the church with the general architecture of the building and everything. As you can see, quite pointy windows and pointy roofs and everything. I always had one question though about the gargoyles. Really, I've always been quite interested in them really, and wondered what they mean and what they represent. If you know, I'd really appreciate if you drop a comment down below and explain to me, because I don't know much about this really, to be honest. As we exit the church, we took a right and then just followed the road all the way straight up, and then came across coming across to the high street. Now this part of the road I was quite concerned about really, because there's not much of a footpath here, and as it bends to the left, it's a bit of a blind bend really, so you can't really see. You have to be very careful of approaching vehicles, just like that cycle there really. The road does then actually open up then into what you'd think is a proper high street really, where you got bars and restaurants and everything up ahead. You just keep following the road straight really. It is literally just one straight road really. And yeah, this bit's quite nice, you see, with all the bars on the side here. This part here, further on, it's a bit of a flat road up here, so it's quite easy access really. So one thing I will say though, it is a bit of a hill, so be prepared for a bit of a jaunt uphill. You may notice all the bunting and all the England flags as well. That's because the World Cup was on at the time when we were filming this, and I think England were playing on that day as well. Which is why I wanted to get back to the hotel as soon as possible so I can watch the match. But I'm nothing if not dedicated, and I was going to stay on until the job was finished. A little further up the road, you arrive at what I call this junction in the middle of the road, really, where the Thornbury and Bloom team have been busy at work here. I managed to speak to someone as well, and they said that they do take great pride in making sure all the flowers are out over the season for the summer period. Terrible if you got hay fever, though, to be honest. The Thornbury and Bloom team are all complete volunteers, as I believe, so they all do take their own time. Take it out their personal time to come along, and make sure everything looks pretty. I think they do a great job. This concludes our walk really, and do stay tuned for our conclusion of the Thornbury series. So finally bringing our Thornbury stay to an end now, and I just wanted to sort of do my conclusion part really, now that I usually do. I won't actually be going over the history part of the castle and obviously our stay there, because I think that's all covered pretty much in the other videos really. So if you're here to watch more of that, then I suggest go back and watch the other videos. Once again, grab yourself a cup of tea or something, get comfortable, and I'll just begin the conclusion part. So firstly, I want to go in terms of the castle itself. I'm going to break this up into a couple of sections actually. I think that's probably best. Number one, I think we'll look at the reception staff, because I want to look at that sort of separately, and say the staff at the hotel were absolutely fantastic to us, and they're really approachable at all times, if ever I needed anything, because yeah, they were just great. So for them, I really want to give them a green light. The other parts of the castle, I'm going to have to give the other parts of the castle a red light, I'm afraid, because, like I said, there were other parts that I would like to have gone to see myself, but unfortunately just wasn't able to in my condition. And unfortunately, but that's not really anyone's fault. I mean, the building has got a Grade 1 listed status, and there's nothing they can do about it. They can't make any changes there or anything to accommodate new things. But I think, to be fair, They have, for what they've got and what they've done, I think they've done a great job with what they've got, really, and what they can do, I'm afraid, because even though our room was an accessible room, there wasn't a single handrail or anything in the shower or in the bathroom, which I think just go to speak for in itself, but they're always asking for ideas, how they can improve the place. And I think having a handrail in the shower is a must, really, especially if you're trying to wash yourself or something, stand there for a long period of time, trying to hold on to something, it's quite difficult. So I can understand that. But yeah, so that's my one bit of advice for them. St Mary's Church here in Thornbury, I want to give that a rating as well. I mean, for a 500-year-old building, it did look pretty good, and in pretty good nick and everything. And yeah, for such an old building, the accessibility, they've tried to keep it all modern and really good, for visitors. I mean, I know I did mention in my video that the pews and stuff aren't very accessible for disabled wheelchairs. But sometimes, when I'm watching something and I'm looking something at quite closely, I get really bad tunnel vision. So I'm just focusing on the task at hand. But what I failed to realise was there's loads of other external seating all around the area, all around the outside, where plenty of people can sit down to listen to sermons, listen to the sermon or whatever, listen to the sermon or just pray, So I think that's quite a good thing. So for that, I want to give them a green light. However, though, the other amber light I want to give to the church, though, is because if you were to exit from the side in towards the cemetery area, I did find that that's quite rough terrain around there, walking around to the front of the church and walking around the cemeteries. Unfortunately, I don't think that can be helped, with the age of the building and the age of the grounds and everything. But I mean, that it does make it quite difficult for someone in a wheelchair to navigate it, unless you've, of course, got a 4x4 type wheelchair, which you'll probably go over it with the breeze, really. So yeah, so an amber light for that, I'm afraid. Coming on to Thornbury High Street now, and yeah, this is going to be a bit of another two-parter for me, I'm afraid. Yeah, the part of the high street where the bars and everything are, and the easier, that's quite really nice access, lowered curbs and everything, and quite nice and easy to get across the road, very easy. And I'm not sure, but don't think vehicles can go that way, so it's quite nice access around there. So you can easily go in a wheelchair around there. There's no issues at all. That area gets a green light from me. However, the other part where we were walking up just before the high street started, there was an area of the pavement where there was just a single pavement on the one side of the road and a sharp bend towards the left, I think, yeah. Towards the left, and that area was on a blind bend, and there was only pavement on the one side, obviously, and you couldn't really see much. And yeah, so I find that area probably could do with a bit of. I'll give that area more of an amber light, to be honest, because I think it could probably be improved in some way. With that all in mind and everything that I've just mentioned beforehand, I still want to give my stay at Thornbury a green light, really, because I think that it was a fantastic couple of days we were there, really, and yeah, well, it feels like a lifetime ago, but yeah, it was a great stay we had, and the staff at the hotel, going back to the staff again, they were really accommodating, and yeah, it's just some little things that probably need working out, really, but I'm sure it's all doable, really. Contacted a Thornbury direct about seeing if there were any voucher codes or anything for the viewers of these videos and the people who want to book or anything like that. Unfortunately, they told me they don't offer any specific discounts as such, but what they did say to me was if you were to visit their website, go on the website for the hotel, and if you were to contact them directly, they could try to see what they could do with the prices. That's not from me, that's from them. So if you're looking at booking a stay at Thornbury Castle, I do recommend it, because it's definitely something different and definitely something worth visiting, I reckon. So yeah, I do recommend going over there. But I do also say that yeah, if you're going to book, then book directly through the hotel themselves. So before I finish now, what do you think of the new studio we've got here? It's quite nice, isn't it? Yeah. So drop a comment down below what you think. Not really much else left for me now to say now, apart from this is the end of our Thornbury series of videos. Sorry, I can't even get my words out. Thornbury series of videos. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this series. There's something different from me, and hopefully then I'll try to bring more videos to you soon, and I'll see you next time then. Please do like, share and subscribe, And I have also noticed that a lot of people are watching my videos without subscribing, so please do subscribe because it really helps me out to create more content for you all. So please do ensure that you subscribe to my videos. Thanks, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.